What's up guys, welcome back to a not so classic episode of Parkour Journeys. Today we're going to go over how cold showers made me and can make you better at parkour. Let's crack into it. So yeah, not so classic, but it's becoming more regular, these tutorial type videos. I've had quite a few comments of people saying that they enjoy these long, in-depth talks about how things can help them, like take a deep dive into their parkour practice and make it better and get more out of it and get more out of their practice from this. So if you do like this kind of videos, do leave me a comment below, let me know that you enjoy them, and don't forget to subscribe because we bring you some amazing quality content every single Tuesday. Usually we're out and about filming parkour, going from town to town, learning new ways of moving and putting that into our own styles, digging into our minds and showing you the process of how we overcome our fears. But on these tutorial days, I usually do a deep dive into a certain topic about how to get better at parkour, what different things that you may not have considered can help you to progress in your training and in your life basically. And these aren't really surface level tips and tricks. This isn't 5 top tips. This is a deep dive into some real knowledge and a real close look at how, from my personal 12 years of training, what's changed and what I've used to improve that and to blast through plateaus and keep myself progressing even at this far in. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, guys, then please do consider subscribing. You don't want to lose us. You don't want us to fall into the faff of crappy YouTube and never find us again. If you've just stumbled across this channel, subscribe now. You don't want to miss out. Every single Tuesday we're bringing you some real top quality content. I mean, I put my heart and soul into this entire channel, and I really hope that it's becoming and flourishing into this well-rounded parkour channel that you can come to for pretty much everything parkour related, and a lot of people are finding that and they're really enjoying it. So please do subscribe, and yeah, we'll continue to bring you fantastic content and you'll never miss an episode. So this may sound like a bit of a breezy topic and you might not understand the depth of which this can go to, and I'm going to structure the video as I normally do, covering the more basic physical points of why cold showers can make you better at parkour, and then we're going to take a real deep dive into the mentality behind it and why you may not realize exactly what a cold shower can do for your training and the rest of your life. So yeah, that's going to be the structure of the video. If you're already familiar with cold showers and what they can do for you physically, you might want to skip this first portion. I'll leave like the time codes down below, but if you don't know, stay tuned for this part. But you're definitely not going to want to miss the mentality portion of this video, which is going to take a real dive into why cold showers can help you mentally, and it's going to be some stuff that you probably haven't considered. So the first of the physical aspects I want to talk about when it comes to cold showers and how that relates to parkour is that cold showers prime your nervous system to be able to take more stress. It actually hardens your nervous system and allows you to be able to take on more stressful situations. And you might think, when I go out and do parkour, it's not a stressful situation. I'm having a good time with my buddies, we're having a good day, it's a good laugh, we're all having a good time. But you've got to understand that the physical and mental side of parkour really does put a massive stress on your body and your nervous system. When you're going out to do parkour, generally you'll have your little warm up and then you'll go into moves that you can basically do already, which is already causing some stress to the body, but not so much. But then you'll come up to the biggest jump that you want to do that day. You'll come up to the thing you're scared of. You'll come up against a challenge that, oh, you don't know if you can do. And before you know it, you've got a whole range of stresses on you. So what have you got? The first thing you've got is the decision-making process. Am I able to do this jump or not? And am I going to take it on as a challenge today? So you put yourself under a mental strain to make the decision and clock whether or not you're going to be able to physically do this jump. And the reason it's a stressor is because you're about to decide whether or not to put your body in potential danger or not. And it might not feel like that when you're out training, but that's what's happening on like a biological level. You've got to look at the jump and assess whether or not you're going to go for it. Once you've decided whether or not you can do it, you're going to have that stress of deciding whether or not you're going to go for it and whether or not you're going to do it that day. And then when you finally decided whether or not you're going to go for that jump, you have to actually physically go through it and go through that movement. And this can all be a massively stressful situation on your body and your mind. And it may not seem like it during the time because it's, you know, it's all part of it, right? It's all part of that big adrenaline kick, but it's putting your body through a massive amount of stress. And the more stress that you can handle, the more you're going to be able to step up to those fears and do them more consistently and eventually progress more and more. So that's what's happened with me, was like I found that the more I would take cold showers, the more I would be able to come up against harder challenges because my nervous system has been primed, my nervous system has been hardened to take more stresses on, which is such a good way of being able to do that outside of a stressful situation in a nice safe environment. Just taking a cold shower, it's not really all that difficult. When you compare it to going for a really big jump or something like that, it's a really safe environment. So to be able to prime your stresses, your nervous system for those stresses before you go out, that can really be a big help and a big boost for you. Cold showers are also an anti-inflammatory, which helps reduce muscle soreness and joint inflammation, which means that you can recover faster after your parkour session, which means you can get out training again more quickly, and you can obviously progress faster. It also increases your circulation, which helps your muscles grow back quicker and helps you repair faster, which means it basically just means that you can train more frequently and more often, which makes you better at parkour. And I've definitely found that if I miss a cold shower, my body definitely doesn't recover as fast, and I can definitely tell that, especially at this age, at 26, nearly 27, this many years into parkour, something like a cold shower can really do the trick when it comes to recovery. Another good point to make is that it can prime your physiology and mentality before you go out training. So if you get up and then you immediately jump into a cold shower, then you are switched on, man. Like, your nervous system is prepped and ready. You go into that sympathetic nervous system state, which means that you are alive and ready to rock. Like, you know, when you go out and sometimes you're just sluggish and you're not really feeling it and you don't really want to jump around or train, this can be the trick sometimes to really flip that mindset and get you ready to go. Because if you jump into a cold shower right after you've gotten out of bed, you can imagine how much of an awake feeling that you're going to feel after that. So that can be a really good tool to use to get yourself ready to rock straight out of the gate on when you're going for a training session. So the final thing to mention on the physical side is that taking a cold shower before bed can massively impact your sleep and make you sleep a lot deeper. It lowers your core temperature and quiets your mind. And obviously, if you can get a better, deeper sleep, you're going to recover quicker, which means more parkour, which means more training, which means more progress, right? Now, why does it quieten your mind? Let's jump straight into the mental aspects of this now. Essentially, when you jump into a cold shower, you pretty much have no choice but to stop thinking. All you can really focus on is how cold it is and dealing with that cold situation. All of the thoughts in your mind that are overactive just flush straight out of your brain, and you get into that meditative state, which allows you to be more centered and more calm. And obviously this helps you sleep, but it also helps you when it comes to parkour, because that is the kind of state that we're after when we're doing jumps. When we're coming up against jumps that we're scared of, we're after a completely blank mind that doesn't fill our head with thoughts about why we can't do things or what's scary about the situation. We want a nice, calm, clear mind, and cold showers can really help with that. So let's dig into a little bit more about what cold showers can do on that front. So with cold showers, they teach you to take the path of most resistance, which essentially means, you know, if you've got two paths and you can go down one where it's nice and easy, essentially you can not take the cold shower, or you can walk away from a jump that you think, you know, oh, that's too difficult today, or I'm not up to it, or, you know, I can't quite do that, I don't want to push myself that much. That's the path of least resistance. The path of most resistance, which is what you want to try and go down all of the time. If it's the smart route, of course, you don't want to just make things hard for yourself, but more often than not, the path of most resistance is what you're after in terms of personal growth and in any area, but specifically for parkour. So if you get up in the morning, it's early in the morning, the last thing that a lot of people want to do is jump into a cold shower. They want to stay warm, they want to get into that nice warm shower, and they think that a cold shower just sounds absolutely ridiculous, and why would they ever do that? But what you need to understand is that if you can discipline yourself to get into a cold shower when you don't want to, then you start training yourself to take the path of most resistance. So you're getting into that nasty, what you consider nasty environment early on in the day, and you're doing that consistently day after day. You start teaching yourself to take the path of most resistance. So when you are out training, this condition transfers over to you being able to not walk away from more difficult jumps, not walk away from more difficult lines. Take the time to continue practicing something that you might not be that good at yet, or take the time to do the repetitions of the jump that you need to do so that you actually land it and not walk away too early. It teaches you to take that path of most resistance. It increases your willpower to be able to make those decisions, because willpower is a muscle and it needs to be exercised. And taking things like cold showers is the way that you exercise your willpower in a non-consequence environment. So you take that willpower and then you apply it to jumps that you may not have. Everyone's been there when you're on those days and you're just like, I'm not gonna, you know, that you don't go for that jump, or you don't put the time in to just practice a move and actually learn it, you're just like, oh, I'm not very good at that, or oh, I don't do those, you know, I don't do rail precisions, I don't do 180s, you know, everyone's got a move or two that they're just like, oh, I don't do those. But if you take the path of most resistance, you're not just going for those jumps that you're really good at and that are really easy for you, or that you have a natural aptitude for. If you start building that more well-rounded skill set, which then transfers over to the rest of your movement, you become a much more well-rounded athlete. And cold showers, and this is it, this is like, cold showers can do that for you because you learn to take the path of most resistance. You discipline yourself into doing things that you don't want to do. You do it anyway. You learn to do it regardless of how you feel, what your emotions tell you, and you take that path, and then before you know it, you're really good at the stuff that you never thought you'd even touch in parkour because you're used to taking that path of most resistance. So the next thing that I find that cold showers does for you and can really help with parkour is that it helps you build up a state of non-reactivity. So what do I mean by that? When you're getting into a cold shower, it's not considered a nice, friendly environment. It's something that shocks your body, it puts you into a sympathetic nervous state, it gets you into that fight or flight response if you let it. But what it does is it trains you. If you go into those states anyway, if you volunteer to move into that place, then you start developing a non-reactive mind, a non-reactive state. When you first get into those cold showers, you know, you might immediately be like absolutely frozen solid, you're like jumping all over the place, you're breathing really fast and you just can't control yourself, or your mind is racing, you're all over the place. But eventually, time after time after time, you learn to control yourself in that high pressure, high stress situation, and you develop a non-reactive mind, which immediately transfers over to parkour. If you're following the dots here, you're in this position, you're about to do a big Kong Pri, and all of a sudden your mind starts racing and it's really, really scary. You're in that high stress situation, but you develop, because you've developed a non-reactive mind, those stresses that come in, those thoughts that run through your mind really quickly, you don't react to them because you've built up that state of non-reactivity. You're used to stresses hitting you and you not reacting to them. It's getting yourself used to being in difficult, stressful situations and having a quiet, zen-like mind and not reacting to those physically and mentally, which you can imagine is massively helpful for doing parkour, because like I say, it's a high stress situation and you're thrown into this environment which your body isn't used to on a daily basis, and you have to somehow remain calm, you know what I mean? Especially if you're learning new moves, you start learning, you know, you're pushing yourself into a new environment, you need to be able to cultivate a non-reactive state so you can move into it smoothly and not just freak out and have a traumatic experience because stuff is too much for you. And something like a cold shower, as you can see, like it transfers over. If you go into that cold shower, you go into that unpleasant, uncomfortable environment daily, you make yourself do it, and then before you know it, you're sort of unreactive to it. You can step into it, you don't shiver, you don't get cold, you recognize it for what it is, and you put yourself into a calm state, and you can actually learn to enjoy it, and you enjoy that cold feeling, and every morning you get up looking forward to that feeling. Imagine that transferred over to the parkour. What was fear then turns into, oh yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this feeling and managing it, and let it give you the energy that's designed to give you. Let that adrenaline become a friend rather than a foe. And it's crazy how something like a cold shower can transfer those skills over. So another way in which a cold shower can help your mentality, and it's sort of, you know, it's physical and it's mental, because they are one thing. I mean, you have a physiological reaction, and then it's like, how do you deal with that mentally? And the two sort of go hand in hand. It's kind of silly to presume you get one without the other. There's every mental thought you have sort of has a cause in the physical realm. So the two sort of go hand in hand. But with a cold shower, you can learn to go when your body says no. So when you come up against a stressful environment, your body will have a ton of physical reactions, and then that will lead on to a ton of emotional and mental reactions. So you have an emotional reaction to the physical, and then you have a mental story that runs along the line of the emotional. So you're going up against a big jump, you have a physical reaction, which is adrenaline and cortisol, and you go into that fight or flight response. You then have an emotional reaction to that, which is either fear or anger or excitement. And then you have a mental story that you layer over the top of that. So you feel that emotion, and then what you have is you'll tell yourself a mental story that correlates with that emotion. So if you're fearful, you'll have the mental story of I'm going to slip, I'm going to catch my hands, I'm going to hit my knee, I'm going to fall, I'm going to hurt myself, I'm going to die. If you're excited, you have that mental story of like, I'm going to land this is going to be great, I'm going to have such a good time, it's going to feel so good when I land it. Usually you have a combination of the two, because it's very difficult to align those emotions and not have like a bunch of conflicting stories, which is something that the state of non-reactivity is going to be a massive help for. But then you've also got to learn to go when your body says no. So in the morning, it's fresh, it's first thing in the morning, it's bloody cold outside, and the last thing you want to do is get into that cold shower, but you've told yourself you're going to, and it's your discipline that you're going to. And so your whole entire body is saying, no, I don't want to do this, I want to climb back in bed and get all comfy and put my dressing gown on and have a cup of tea. Or I want to have a nice hot steamy shower and I don't want anything to do with this cold bullshit. But if you learn to go into that cold shower when everything inside your body is telling you no, then you learn to override those emotional responses to what you consider bad situations, and you learn to step into that cold shower and do it anyway, no matter what your body says, no matter what your emotions say. And then you do that over time, you start building up those synaptic pathways that allow that highway of an action, of a habit to take place. Because at the start, what you have is your synaptic pathways are just going to be this sort of little dirt road to the path of most resistance that you don't want to go down. But you need to start building up like a super highway of like, yeah, I've done this so many times that I'm so used to saying to myself, I'm going to go no matter what. I'm going to go whenever my body says no. And before you know it, that's the main habit, rather than not going when your body says no. So you can see how this obviously translates into parkour. So you're there, you're about to do your running pre, you run up to it, and we've all had that moment where we're like, oh, and you just don't go for it because you're just that too much scared. Your stories are running too wild in your mind, your emotions are too all over the place, your physical response is too reactive, and you don't go. But if you learn to go when your body is saying all those things, when your body is saying no, and you build up that habit, for example, in the cold shower, it translates into your actual parkour life as well. So you're going running up to that running pre, your body is saying no, but you're so used to going anyway that you're like, yeah, I'm doing it, and then you go for it, and then you land the jump and everything's all good. Because as we know, 9 times out of 10, the reason we're not doing something, it's not based on any kind of logical reason, it's that we just don't have control over those physiological responses. But if you can do these things that the cold shower is going to help you with, then before you know it, you're going to be massively smashing through all of the jumps that you've always wanted to do, because you're learning to go when your body says no. You've calmed down your reactive state, so you're in a non-reactive state to these emotional places, and you're taking the path of most resistance. The final thing I want to talk about when it comes to the cold showers is something that is super interesting to me. Now, you might have noticed that there's a couple of conflicting ideas in when it comes to the cold showers. So they say that you have reduced body temperature and it calms down your mind and so is ready for bed, right? But it also says that it can prime your physiology and wake you up and get you ready to go for the day. So how do those two coincide? Like how does that work? And what I've found is that with cold showers, you learn to choose your reaction. You learn how to choose your reaction in a place where you have a bunch of stories revolving around what it is that is bad or how you're going to react to certain things. So your entire life, if you haven't taken cold showers yet, you've been in a place where you have the story that cold is bad and hot is good, and the cold is something you want to avoid, and heat is something you want to go towards. And so when you first get into that cold shower, you're going to be in a massive state of resistance. All of your muscles are going to tense up and you're going to be quite intense and you're going to shiver. You may not like it, but what I've found is that you can go into a cold shower and be completely relaxed and actually let it wash over you and completely release all of your cortisol, release all of your adrenaline, and get you into a nice sort of recovery state. So if you have a hot day out, and it doesn't even have to be a hot day out, but if you've had a hard day's training, you come home and you have a cold shower and you learn to relax into it, you can have everything cool off. If you think about something that's like really hot and it's been like going hard all day, it feels nice to cool off and relax. And you can get that. You can choose to be in that state. Conversely, you can choose to go in and have it hype you up. So you get in that shower and you're like, this feels good. You tune into that that aliveness feeling that it gives you, that sort of physiological boost and awakening feeling it gives you. So depending on what you choose is how the shower is actually going to benefit you. And I've been doing cold showers since I'm 20. I'm 26 now. This is like 6 years of every single day, and I've learned how to, and it didn't take me that long to learn how to do this, but I've learned that it makes a huge difference the kind of mentality that you go into the shower with, and it's strange because you choose your reaction to the situation. And you can see how, again, this applies to parkour, because you can be put into a bunch. It's just so many scenarios that you get into when you're in parkour. But if you learn to control your mind and choose your reactions to the situation, choose to craft your day and not let the day sort of run you, let the jumps run you. You run the jumps, you decide when, where, and how many times you're going to do something, and whether or not you're going to go for something, and when your body's going to run out of energy, and you sort of craft that, and you start to learn how to choose those things. You have way more control than you think you do. And something like a cold shower can really teach you this, because if you've got that mental story of like hot is really good and cold is really bad, and before you know it, you teach yourself that actually those really are just stories. They're not actually lining up with the physiological responses that I'm actually getting from a cold shower. But interestingly enough, if you've got the wrong stories, then your physiology will line up in the way that your stories go. So if you feel like it's so bad, then you're going to tense up and you're going to find it horrible. But if you can remind yourself that actually cold and hot are actually just opposite ends of the same spectrum, and if I understand that, then I realize that one isn't any different to the other, and actually my body's going to respond my body can respond equally to either of them, and neither of them are bad and neither of them are good. And you get to choose which way you want to go. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I hope you guys have got some good information for this. I've really tried to dig into what it really is that makes these so good. They're so powerful. Obviously, you hear cold showering like, oh yeah, just one of those other daily routines, things that just, aren't going to make much of a difference. But I found them to be really, really useful in my parkour practice. And I hope that sharing it with you has given you some sort of insight into your mentality and how your emotions and everything work when it comes to things with parkour. And understand as well that not always is it that something that's entirely separate is actually separate from something else. You might think cold showers, how's that going to help me with my parkour? But the point is that everything is intermingled, and this is how, this is why they're intermingled. And I've explained it to you today, but be careful to not just dismiss something because you think it has nothing to do with something else. It all blends into everything. Everything all makes you a better person. The more you take on, the more challenges you take on, even if it has nothing to do with the thing that you're trying to get better at, it all mushes together and makes you better. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if there's anything else you want me to take a deep dive on, to really dig into mentally, that if there's any topics that you really want to know about, if there's any tutorials I can help you with. I would absolutely love to keep doing these and keep bringing you this information. So let me know how you like the format. Let me know if you prefer these or the vlogs or whatever. Please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one, Tuesday, 4:30 every single week. Big love, guys. Take care. All right.